Alright, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast, BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Well, we had something completely different planned to talk about today, but can't get away from some of these Zodiac killer issues. I've said before on this channel that I don't ever want it to turn into just something one note where we're only focusing on one case, but some stuff about the Zodiac killer just always pulls you back in. Very enthralling mystery. Our stuff today comes to us from Corey Starliper, 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 the guy who claimed that he solved the 340 character cipher, that he solved the final Zodiac cipher that people had been wrestling with for 40 years. And there was actually, I found out about this from a British newspaper, of course posted online. Was it the Daily Mail? Okay, let's just read out. What does the final cipher say? Kill self. Doctor, help. Me kill myself. Gas chamber. Aori. Days. Questionable. Everything. Every waking moment. I'm alive. My pride lost. I can't go on living this way. Killing people. I have killed so many people. Can't help myself. I'm so angry. I could do my thing. I'm alone in this world. My whole life full of lies. That was full O lies, just the letter O. Unstable. To stop. By the time you solve this, I will have killed 11 people. Please help. Please help me stop killing. Please, please. My name is Leigh Allen. What do we make of this? I mean, there is the very famous thing, though, that these ciphers were created so that the Zodiac Killer could reveal his identity, right? Is there any truth to what this guy has? Where this is somebody who I believe, from reading the article, it said that he was able to decode this in about 9 hours. He spent 9 hours looking at the kind of final Zodiac cipher, and he came up with this solution. Now, I've said that I've looked at it before, and sometimes I can be kind of an imaginative person, sometimes I can be somewhat of a creative person. I was looking at that thing, and I was getting nowhere. And we talked about one possibility recently during the George Hill Hodel upload, just that how the final cipher could be just a series of Celtic symbols. But as opposed to not really meant to look for the language of its entirety, but there's one particular symbol that would reveal the name, Hodel. Well, what we have here is quite different. Corey Starliper and his interpretation of the cipher, his decoding, if you will, has a very clear sentence. My name is Leigh Allen. And, you know, like going through the Zodiac stuff, I mean, I'm sure you have some familiarity with the Zodiac case, whoever you are. Arthur Leigh Allen frequently went by just Leigh Allen, so there's something there. Did anybody notice, though, that as I was reading that off, the first part of his decoding is almost nonsensical? Kill self, doctor, help me kill myself, gas chamber, Aour day? A-E-I-O-U-R, Aour day? I mean, like, the first part of this is just nonsense. Questionable, everything. Every is spelled with 2 Y's at the end. Alright. Consistent with Zodiac things in the past. We've talked about how the Zodiac would have misspellings. They could be intentional, they could just be mistakes in the coding process. Killed is misspelled. Have is misspelled. Have is spelled H-A-V. And we said full of lies is spelled F-U-L-O-L-I-E-S. Well, I mean, does this really indicate Arthur Leigh Allen as the Zodiac Killer? Did this guy get it right? What he did was, he contacted the police department in Napa County, and he's just like, nobody is willing to talk with him. And I think that that's why a lot of people are genuinely experiencing that. I think almost anybody who is contacting the police departments about the Zodiac Killer these days is just getting turned away. If I understand, they closed the case. What year was that? Was that 2001 when they officially closed this and they're not taking anything new, because they tested Arthur Lee Allen's DNA, right? And that was because he was the only suspect that they publicly admit that he is their person of interest. The Richard Gaikowski documentary tried to get his DNA tested. They wouldn't do it. Earl Van Best's son tried to get his father's DNA tested and compared to the Zodiac's multiple times. And, he has the request forms and it's been denied. I think they're just not doing that stuff anymore. They don't want to hear any more about this because for them, they want to focus on other cases. Okay, so we mentioned, though, the first part of this thing seems rather nonsensical. It's like they're just words. They're just words and sentences. Words that are not in sentences, excuse me. Kill, self, doctor, help. Then it starts to become a little more logical. I can't go on living in this way, killing people. I have killed so many people. Well, one of the things, though, that we do have near the end of this, by the time this is solved, I will have killed 11 people. Where's that? Seriously, where's that? We have our 5 victims, right? And multiple people, of course, were, you would say, injured, but where is the 11 people? Where's that coming from? Okay, but I noticed, though, the reason why I mentioned that the first part is somewhat nonsensical and the second part is becoming a little bit more logical. It didn't really take more than one single Google search to find someone else who was also saying something similar, where it's like, all right, is there any chance that this guy, Corey Starliper, approached this in a way that is kind of like just forcing a preconceived notion onto the subject, where, my own hunch was he probably wrote in the final sentence, "My name is Leigh Allen," and then he began to use that as kind of like the key to decipher the other words, because those sentences at the end are very clear and they're very they're normal sentences. I will have killed 11 people, please help me. These are real sentences as opposed to just words, doctor, kill, love, stop, help myself. It's like, so there is the possibility that perhaps this guy was looking at the final sentence and he wrote in, "My name is Leigh Allen," and he was trying to see if that would be some way that he could decode this. And then he started kind of forcing the other letters in. And I'm on the website, aranchak.com. This one says very clearly that that's the only way that he could have done it. If he had sort of a great freedom to force his preconceived idea onto the subject, is what this guy is writing, because it's just saying that it's not really a consistent approach. And furthermore, I was really wondering, maybe we could put someone else's name into this and see what would happen. And if you look at Leigh Allen, maybe we could just find another name of similar letters. Okay, the reason why I'm kind of being so hesitant about this is I am someone who has said one thing about Arthur Lee Allen. What I have said is there are 2 Zodiac suspects that are just waiting in the wings. 2 Zodiac suspects that are kind of just waiting for the smoking gun, where I wouldn't be surprised at all. I wouldn't blink. One of them is Arthur Lee Allen. If you could somehow show that sort of smoking gun, not so much just what some guy in Massachusetts did on a Saturday night when he was really hyped up on Mountain Dew or something and he can't sleep, so he decoded the final cipher, putting in a bunch of words that aren't in sentences. Little more than that, a little more hard evidence than that. Okay? Arthur Lee Allen is a suspect that I would accept completely. There's an enormous amount of evidence against him. The other one would be Lawrence Kane. Once again, we said maybe Lawrence Kane doesn't completely match the psychological profile, but once again, I don't see the smoking gun like the definitive thing that would tie him in. I said about those 2 guys, they're just waiting in the wings. It's like almost just waiting for the day when you find that harder piece of evidence that will connect one of them to this case. But we can see what happens. We really can. we were talking about like a possible revelation of the Zodiac's name with the George Hill Hodel case, and I thought that presentation was so much better. When they're showing about how that this one Celtic symbol has these different letter sounds put into it, and it spells out the HODEL thing. I don't think George Hodel was the Zodiac killer. It's like, that involves a giant super theory about how he murdered the Black Dahlia, he committed murders in Chicago, murders in the Philippines, that are all done with surgical skill, but the Zodiac is different. But the subject of that book turned into, the title of that book, I should say, is called Most Evil 2, written by his son, Steve Hodel. Now, when we have this one here, it's very forced. I mean, this interpretation of the final cipher is somewhat forced, and instantly looking at that, like, when I was reading those first sentences for the first time, just words, I was like, how could this be what the Zodiac was putting into the cipher? These are just words that aren't connected to anything. Kill, self, doctor, gas chamber. Maybe this guy tried to just kind of put in, my name is Leigh Allen at the end, and then thought he can use that as the deciphering model. Alright though, what do we make of Arthur Leigh Allen as a suspect? During the Bruce Davis upload that I did, I mentioned that there was a poll that said, by users, overwhelmingly voted that they believe Arthur Leigh Allen was the Zodiac killer. Is there any truth to this? I mean, people have written into the comments on these uploads saying that they believe that Arthur Leigh Allen was the Zodiac killer above anybody else. I do admit, though, that there's a line from the Zodiac about making pipe bombs, and there were pipe bombs that were discovered in Arthur Leigh Allen's basement. Also, is it true that Arthur Leigh Allen wore the Zodiac watch? I mean, like, things like that do not sound that... Well, once again, it's like, it sounds really creepy. Creepy. But where is the definitive evidence that this guy was a murderer and that he committed these very specific murders? Where is that with the Arthur Leigh Allen case? And at first I was just about to dismiss this entirely. I was like, Arthur Leigh Allen was exonerated from DNA. Arthur Leigh Allen was exonerated from the fingerprints and the side palm print on the letters and the ciphers. And the Zodiac didn't cover that stuff up because that technology didn't exist at the time. So it's like, writing the letter with your bare hand. Yes, they could get fingerprints, but they couldn't detect the side palm print or DNA, of course, in the 1960s. Definitely a little early for that. Alright, so is there any possibility that Arthur Leigh Allen is indeed the perpetrator in all this? Or is he just a mistake? Is he just a mistake in Zodiac lore? I mean, I don't think it's impossible. Like I said, though, he's just kind of like the back burner kind of suspect, waiting in the wings. But what I would say is, I started to have the feeling that there could be a handful of other suspects I thought would be a little bit more likely. I mentioned Lawrence Kane already. I mentioned Ross Sullivan a lot on this channel. We're talking about a lot. With Richard Gaikowski, I'm almost about to eliminate him. For a while, I really thought that maybe some of the things that people were saying about Gaikowski were true, but I'm almost about to eliminate Gaikowski. If what we're reading is correct, it seems like they just got the wrong guy, and that perhaps some of the things on the internet about Richard Gaikowski have been misinterpreted, or perhaps blatantly incorrect, genuinely incorrect information on the internet. One of the things that I'm kind of just thinking about now is it possible that any of these major suspects are not the guy? Any of the major suspects? That's the thing that I'm dealing with, because it's like, anytime you begin to kind of look at the evidence, it doesn't really seem to connect to any single one of them. And I told you in the past, so I kind of had that suspicion about George Russell Tucker, who is the Lyndon Lafferty suspect. It's almost like, I think it's a well-composed narrative, but once again, it's just like, it's received so little support. It's like no one else seems to be taking it seriously. Well, yes, that makes me skeptical, because it's like, that just means that this one guy has come up with a theory, and if no one else is seeing what he is seeing, that means that he's just a good storyteller. That's what that is. It means like he's created this own narrative in his own mind. Lyndon Lafferty, talking about him, he's created this narrative that George Russell Tucker is the Zodiac killer. But I do admit, though, that one answers all the questions. It's just, that's more about like, what would we say, speculation and surmise and stuff like that. But it's very possible that the Zodiac could be somebody that we haven't even talked about, that isn't even well known to the general public, not to mention the group theory, that there could have been at least 2 people involved with this. A group meaning the smallest group is 2, right? There could be 2 people involved with a case like this. What do you think, though? Do you think that Arthur Lee Allen was the Zodiac killer? I'll just leave it like that. Do you think Arthur Lee Allen was the Zodiac killer? Challenge question for everyone.